Everybody, welcome back with the Blapper Platypus is the name, and today we're going to be taking a look at MOTOHA Summer Variant. So, really quick, we're just going to talk about the unit, but just like so it's out there, I guess, like, I haven't decided if I'm pulling for this unit yet, not even necessarily from, like, a meta perspective, but, like, look at, all right, I understand different parts of the world are different, but for me, it's just like, as an American citizen, seeing a stated 16-year-old high schooler and like being sexualized in a bikini, it just it's weird vibes for me. Okay, so it's something that I'm probably gonna end up not actually like polling for on the channel or anything like that, but still, I mean, we'll see how the meta shakes out, because really that's what it comes down to, I guess. But we don't need to talk about that. I do want to talk about the actual character themselves. And I think you'll actually be happy to know this is an incredibly boring character. Very, very boring, in my opinion. Not like, that doesn't mean bad, all right? Boring doesn't mean bad. If there's a character that has a button that says deal 100 billion damage, and that's all they do, is that exciting? Not necessarily, but it's very good. I think she kind of falls in that category. I think she is going to be very good. I will say, if closer is your favorite character, this is a good way to get a viable closer. Because closer is she's probably not the worst character in the game. I think Mont is probably the worst character in the game, but closer is pretty close there. So what does this version of her actually do? There's a lot of stuff here. Like, obviously the text, but everything here deals damage, deals damage, deals damage, deals damage. And so to summarize it, she is going to be a damage dealer. Now, she is going to be our first dedicated light damage dealer. Like, we have, I think it's Yuki, and I think is that the only light character in the game? I don't think I'm missing any. Well, Marion, but Marion's like almost entirely a healer, right? And so even though Yuki does have an AoE attack and a single target attack and some like support, this is like an actual damage dealer. And they have her listed, I believe, as the sweeper, but she seems to be just as good at single target as she is in the sweeping mechanic. So let's just read her awareness first. When she becomes healed, decrease the cooldown of Wave Chaser by 1 turn if the healing amount exceeds 15% of her max HP, up to a minimum of 1 turn on Wave Chaser. You will not faint when consuming HP from skills. So this is what's kind of weird, is I actually don't see a cooldown on Wave Chaser. I assume that there is going to be one. This seems like it's going to be her best skill. It does the most damage and does the stuff. Also, it's the 3rd skill. It activates Midsummer. I believe you're going to want, if you have her 5-star weapon, this is going to be more important if you have like multiple awakenings on her and her 5-star weapon. You want to try to get multiple Midsummers going, because on their weapon, you get a buff when you activate it and it stacks twice, only lasts for 2 turns. But for the most part, I mean, this is actually not like that big of a deal, I don't think. I mean, unless it's like a 6-turn cooldown, but this is probably like a 2-turn cooldown, right? Something like that. And it'll go from 2 turns to 1 turn. That's kind of my guess. But she does have kind of the one thing I would say that's interesting for her is she has a lot of HP manipulating mechanics, where this consumes her HP, this consumes her HP, but this heals her HP. You see here, this heals 20% HP, which exceeds the 15%, so that'll lower the Wave Chaser, blah, blah, blah. Also, when she gets overhealed, she increases her damage by 30% for 2 turns. And then when max HP is over 8,000, 8,000's a lot. The light characters care about HP. Well, I mean, Yuki doesn't, but Marion does. When max HP is over 8,000 in battle, for every 100 max HP over the cap, she gets 24 more attack, up to 1920. Basically, this says at 8,000 HP, nothing happens. At 16,000 HP, which is double this, you will have a bonus 1,920 attack. That is a lot of attack. 1,600 HP is a lot to get. I don't know if I want to dedicate... I don't know. It's hard for me to know the math on this, if that means you want to stack HP purely, or if you actually still want to stack attack and just happen to get HP by using something like Marion, who gives HP multiple times, like, because she gives 1,500 just for being around, and then she could heal and increase by 1%. So that might be better. Maybe it's some sort of combination. I'm not really sure. But basically what she's going to be doing here, you're going to want to be doing Midsummer. Immediately enter Midsummer. What is Midsummer? Whether the buff itself specifically does something, I don't know. It doesn't say here. But assuming that it doesn't do anything, it still has enough other skills are amplified when you do it, right? You consume 15% of your max HP. You deal 100, we'll just say 160% of attack as blessed damage to all foes. And then when you're in Midsummer, which is guaranteed because this is here, you increase your crit rate by 10% and your damage by 30%. So this reads to me, but right here, that this is just like a secondary passive effect, basically. You see, the like skills games and these types of games always start adding more and more things to skills. Like this is a separate passive that's just in the skill, right? It's like now, not only do you immediately gain Midsummer, you also consume your HP to do an attack, but then also just like at the end here, whenever you're in Midsummer, you're going to have this effect. This does seem the only way to get into Midsummer, but it's not like this only is active on that turn. You'll have that active until the end of your next turn as well. So that is something that's going to be up, it sounds like quite a bit of the time. But what do you actually do when you have Midsummer? Because this will have a cooldown. You probably cannot use this literally every turn unless you have like a heavy amount of stuff, like heavy amount of like awakenings and stuff in the weapon. Then maybe you can get that every turn. It says not under a minimum of 1 turn. I don't know if there's a way to bypass that. So it doesn't seem like that there is, but I don't know. Maybe you could. But for the most part, you're going to be using Wave Chaser. And then on your other turns, you're basically going to decide. You have the AoE attack and you have the single target attack. AoE, 87.8%, so 88% attack bless damage to all foes. And then if you're in Midsummer, it consumes 10% of your max HP to deal an additional 30%. So let's just call this 90 plus 30. It's not quite 120%, but it's going to be like 100 and whatever, like 16, 17%, right? That's pretty good. That doesn't like blow my mind, but this is going to be a naturally tanky character probably because of all the HP. And besides that, like there's not like there's a secondary thing, right? It's not like you're going to use a different light sweeper. There's just not a lot of, there's no option. There's literally no other character that does this thing, right? And then Leisure Holiday, these names are probably all going to change, but deal 136% attack to one foe and then restores 20% of HP, which I assume it's just on herself. But already this attack is just better to me if it obviously is a single target instead of AoE. But then if you're in Midsummer, deals an additional hit of 30, basically almost 35%. So this does, what, 170% damage to a single target. That's pretty darn good. It's still not, like, broken. It's not like the multiple hundreds percents that I think, like, Makoto has on some of her stuff, or at least on her her highlight, right? But, I mean, this seems pretty good. Like, this is a solid attack for AoE. This is a solid attack for single target. This basically buffs both of them while also doing a reasonable AoE attack. It doesn't actually do quite as much as Leisure Holiday on its own, I don't think, but the fact that it's activating the Midsummer and then doing that probably makes it good enough. Also, if you just use Leisure Holiday every turn, you should be able to get overhealed, right? And so if you use Leisure Holiday basically every other turn, I suppose, that should be overhealing, and you should be keeping this damage up and then this damage up and then doing a, you know, this extra bonus damage here. So it all seems like it will work pretty well. Highlight, deal 195% attack bless damage to all foes, and then restore 20 max HP. I assume this is of her own. And then you increase highlight damage by 25% when your HP is above 50%. I never know exactly how this, if this means this adds 25% to this, where it's actually, whatever, 220% damage, or if it means it takes that total damage output that you get, and then it gives you 25% more. So instead of 1,000, it does another 250 at the end, right? Which would be basically multiplicative or additive. I never know if it's multiplicative or additive. It does make a difference. Multiplicative is better. But if your HP is above 50%, that should be very easy to do. Notably, also, her highlight doesn't care about Midsummer. It doesn't actually get stronger. It does because of the 30% passive of having Midsummer. But besides that, it doesn't care if you actually have Midsummer. But basically, if you use Wave Cleanser and then you use, Leisure Holiday, you'll probably be at full HP because it'll overheal you by 5%. And assuming you didn't take a bunch of damage, then you could use this. You'll be above 50% HP for sure. It'll also heal you 20%. I don't know if you have to be above 50% before the skill starts or after the heal. But again, when you heal this, if you overheal, it'll increase your damage. And so there is a lot going on here to just make your damage very, very high. But it's really boring in my opinion, because really you're going to use skill 3. This is going to give you a buff and then hit everybody. And then you're just going to jump between. All right, you have AoE, you hit this one, single target, you hit that one. And she's going to be very good at her job, but I don't think it's it's not a very fun kit. It's just doing straight up bless damage. It's not like doing stacks of bless, and then those stacks of bless can be dispelled on you and applied to the enemy as curse stacks or something fun. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. But whatever, it's still good. As far as awakenings, Midsummer additionally increases crit rate by 10%, crit damage by 25%, and permanently decrease the cooldown of Wave Chaser by a turn. So because I assume this goes down to a minimum of 1 turn, I assume that maybe this will make it 0, but still, 10% crit rate is massive. 25% crit damage is massive. This is a very good awakening one. I still don't think I'd recommend it. In terms of I would prefer you just get more characters as opposed to dupes of any characters. They'll still do the job mostly. And after here, I don't even really care about even talking about it, honestly. I think it's a little bit just unnecessary, right? And most people aren't going to get them there. And if you are, then you don't care about what this video has to say anyway. Puff Puff Star, whoa, the legendary 4-star weapon. Increase attack by, let's just go with the max here, 24%. And then when you receive the Midsummer, you increase your damage by 14% for 2 turns. And this stacks up to 2 times. So actually, I was wrong. I thought this was the 5-star effect, but this is the 4-star effect. So you can get Midsummer. It only lasts for 2 turns, and it stacks up to 2 times. So you want to get the Midsummer going multiple times as fast as you can. But with the 1-turn cooldown, I just don't really know how this plays out, right? Obviously, I am guessing based off what I'm reading on this site. This isn't perfect information. But I'm assuming you'll be able to get to a point where you could do it every turn. Or I guess you could do it every other turn, and maybe that means you would get at least 1 action with both of these stacks. Overall, 4-star weapon seems totally fine. The 5-star weapon, increase your bless damage by 24%. So literally, it's increasing bless damage is already better than increasing attack. I don't remember why, but I think it just maths out to be that way. When Midsummer, it's because I believe damage is like a multiplicative thing, right? You do like again 1,000 damage, but then it multiplies it by 24%. It's like, oh, but this is like your attack goes from whatever 4,000 to 5,000, right? And then you're like, is 5,000 that much better of a multiplier? It's like, yeah, no. So bless damage is always better already, even though they're the same numbers. When Midsummer is active, increase crit damage by 26%. When gaining Midsummer, gain 2 sunlight stacks. When using a skill or a highlight, spend a sunlight stack. So many different names. To increase the skill damage by 34%. I mean, yeah, this is good, right? You get a bunch of crit damage. It's just more stacking stuff. Now, in addition to all that other stacking, you're also getting the bless damage. You're also getting the crit damage. You're also getting 34% more additional damage. Like, it's a very good 5-star weapon, but at the end of the day, it's just more damage. And unless you're chasing like the top 100 guilds, I don't think you care about just a little bit more damage that much. And is it like, because maybe this is like a 25% increase in damage. It's hard to know without actually trying the stuff out, but I would be very skeptical if this is like ground shattering amounts of damage. And so unless you're chasing scores, it doesn't matter, because most players, if you're not chasing the scores and you're just doing well, you'll just do fine with this character if you get the character. And if you're doing other forms of content where it's not time gated, then you'll just take an extra turn. It's fine to take an extra turn to get the kill. It's not that big of a deal. I don't think this is a mind-breaking weapon. Chords is definitely way cooler than this, in my opinion. But yeah, so overall, I think this is like a not a very exciting character, but she's definitely going to be powerful in meta to an extent, just because she's the only character that fulfills this role. And obviously, she's built in a way where everything works together so well, because every characters are just like that. They're designing 3 skills and a highlight. It's not that hard to make them all work together. So yeah, all of her stuff, buffs and stuff. She's going to be probably she's probably going to be on par with Joker, but for a different element. Maybe I'm skeptical if she'll do as much as Joker, because Joker with the extra turns is so powerful. But she will be comparable, I think, to like the Jokers and the Foxes in terms of damage output. Probably more than Fox, but with not quite as much. But yeah, I guess that's probably it. If Fox is on like the lower end of the sweeper damage and Joker's on the higher end, she'll probably be in the middle there somewhere, which seems totally fine. Yeah, I mean, it's not a character I think I'm interested in myself. We'll see. I don't even know if I'm going to pull at all for what I stated before. But guys, anyway, that's all for this one. Much love for platypuses per platypus. And yeah, MOTOHA, welcome to the game again. See you in the next one. Bye.